3, 4, 5 years in, my knees, which were shot, felt like they were 17 again. Here I am at 61 and I've never felt fitter or stronger. You just want to tell people we believe wholeheartedly that we need to wear less shoe, allow your foot to strengthen naturally. It's so closely aligned to general wellness and overall health. The piece of footwear that we put on the bottom of our legs is so key to that.
There is currently far too many myths out there. The general consensus is still that cushioning and support and narrow shoes are okay for your feet. That's going to shift. Comfort is no longer the cushioning. Comfort is the freedom. Before we jump into this week's episode, I wanted to steal a minute of your time to talk about something that literally changed the way I live: natural footwear. You see, most of us spend our entire lives wearing shoes just to fit in with the crowd. Before I joined TFC, I was no different. I worked as a journalist and I was spending 12 hours a day for almost a decade in these stiff, rigid dress shoes. And then before that, throughout my childhood, I was in stiff-heeled school shoes. I was in cushioned sneakers and those narrow soccer boots as well. But when I slipped on my first pair of Vivo Barefoots, I felt something completely different. Freedom. My toes could finally spread, my soles could feel, and my feet could actually move the way they were meant to. It was honestly liberating. Vivo Barefoot has been such a huge part of all of our journeys here at the Foot Collective. They're not just making shoes, they're making tools that respect human health and the planet. And they've been walking alongside us for years, helping people take the first step toward better foot health. So if you're ready to start reconnecting with your foundation, check out Vivo Barefoot. You'll find the link in the show notes, and if you use the code TheFootCollective, you'll get a special discount off their shoes. What do you reckon the most common question is that we get asked by our customers? It's, where do I start on my foot health journey? And to be honest, the answer is different for everybody, and that is why we have created the Foot Health Assessment. So in less than 10 minutes now, you'll be able to answer some simple questions, go through a few foot and balance screens, and then get a score that shows you where you're at right now out of 100. Based on that, we can now give you tailored guidance on the best place to begin. Here's the kicker. Research shows that 1 in 3 adults over 65 will fall in the next 12 months. And balance problems and dizziness are really common now in adults over 40. That means this isn't just about preventing falls in older age or trying to get out of foot pain. It's about training your foundation now so that you can live a longer, happier, and healthier life. So if you're curious, you can take this free foot health assessment now. Just head to the link in the show notes. Andrew, it is great to chat to you, mate. Thank you for getting up in the wee hours of a UK morning to have a chat to me. How you been, mate? It's
lovely
to hear your voice
with
and see you.
Mac. Yeah, we met a couple of times, and it's just a great to have the opportunity to to have a bit more of a chat. We've got some nice sunny weather here this morning. I'm looking out over a few trees. I think you're coming towards the end of a busy day, but great to have a chat.
Absolutely, mate. For those who don't know who you are and who Freet is, can you give me a little bit of the backstory about how you came to be an owner and operator of a natural footwear brand in the UK?
We go back, well, the business was formed probably 16 or 17 years ago. So those were those crazy days of Vibram 5 Fingers, which we all remember and love, and I think many of us still wear them. So my wife and I founded and owned the business. We're a small business, based, as you rightly say, Mac, in the UK. I guess where we were coming from, I've been involved in the manufacture of footwear off and on most of my working life, and that's 40 years. So a lot of working life. So that's really my input. Sarah was an educator. She was a primary teacher, and she was pretty much coming to this from her love of little kids taking their shoes off and seeing firstly how wonderful the human foot is at that age, but secondly, how we wreck it by queuing up at, certain shoe shops in the UK. I won't mention any brand names. You would queue down the street for ticker tape to go in and take your place for some unqualified 16-year-old to ram your foot into a measuring gauge and then into almost like a concrete looking structure, which they still do call a shoe, and then see these kids hardly wander out of this shop, trying to balance and move in this structure. And I guess I've been round the loop on footwear manufacture, from very old school, heavy, structured mountain boots, manufacturing those, and came really full circle when I was looking to develop my own business, and feeling back then, this is probably 17, 20 years ago, that there was only one thing within footwear that I wanted to do, and that was to create what we called back then, and I guess still do to some extent, a barefoot shoe, a shoe that would allow you to move more naturally. As simple as that. Our first shoe was a crazy thing. It had a single pocket for the big toe, the hallux, and then the others in one other pocket. I've got it here. So how pretty is that? This is our first shoe. That said, it pretty much conforms to all the fundamentals, and everything we do now has the same 5 things. It allows your toes to spread. It's flat. It's fully flexible, thin to the ground. You can feel the surface, and it's fixed. But it's just bone ugly. I think this was an interesting concept, but I guess, and we still do this. We call it 4+1. We still do this shoe, but people kind of we find that these days, another 15 years down the road, people want to generally look a little bit more normal. They don't want to be controversial down there. And I guess you probably agree with this, Matt. We've got bigger fish to fry than arguing with them about the look of a piece of footwear. We need them to be in something which conforms to those 5 criteria, but maybe they don't have to look weird every moment of their lives out there. So we had to go down the weird route for a few years, but I think our vision for the business hasn't changed 1 degree, 1% in, let's say, 15, 16, 17 years, that we believe wholeheartedly in this this mission, if you like, that we need to wear less shoe. That there are times when we need some protection when we go out there, but that if you allow your foot to strengthen naturally, and of course that's where your education comes in. People need to understand that linkage. It's not just about the shoe. The shoe is important. I love to spend a lot of my time without shoes. People say, well, you're a great advocate for a shoe brand, Jacko, mate, because you don't wear shoes half the time. And I go, okay, all right. And the team says, get some of these shoes on your feet. And okay, all right, if I have to. But we started the business, and it was as tough as old boots, if you like. Financially, we never made a bean for 10 years, not a single penny. Both doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs to try and pay the bills. Young family, growing up, but we never, for 1 second, wavered from the desire to bring to people a piece of footwear that allowed them to move more naturally. Um, and so the whole thing evolved. It's very tough bringing together a business. We're a very, very small team, my wife and I, 50% owners. We've never had a penny from anybody else. Um, we've, as I say, just channeled funds in from other things that we do, other jobs that we've been doing, and then gradually and gradually you learn how to play the kind of the world manufacturing game, and that's a tough one. We manufacture in Vietnam and China. My manufacturing career started 40 years ago, manufacturing in the UK, just as we were losing the whole of that industry. And yeah, I don't particularly want to go into the how that happened or why that happened, or is it a good thing or a bad thing. We make sure we don't talk politics, generally at all within the business, because everyone has their own, own differing views. But suffice to say that back in those days, my business partner, I was really a minority partner in that business. He spent half of his time buying up the machinery from the Rosendale Valley parts of the UK and then shipping it abroad into Asia for them to start making shoes. And the rest, as they say, is history. So we manufacture where it makes sense for us to manufacture. Never say that we were not going to make shoes in Europe again, but at the moment we've got long-term relationships, 15, 17-year relationships over there. We put food on their table, they put food on our table, and it's a loyalty thing, and it's a long-term thing. And I guess the one thing that we've tried to be is taking a long-term view in what we do. We're never going to be the flashiest, we'll never be the biggest, but our commitment is to be the leader in performance barefoot shoes or performance natural footwear. And it's a journey, and it's one that I don't know what part we're down that journey, but probably quite early on after nearly 20 years. But the other thing is that it's, enormously fun and rewarding. If you're going to run a business that you believe in, and don't just make stuff that you can sell. I am waffling on.
That's no, because you got to the point where, yeah, where I was going to get to, and what I wanted to emphasize, because that's not easy, plugging away for 10 years, not seeing a dime really come back, and to keep committed to a mission that you wholeheartedly believe in. And I can imagine through that period, you were probably watching the barefoot movement rise and dip and then rise again with what happened with Vibram, sort of in the early days, and the Five Fingers. Firstly, I want to commend you for sticking at it, because I'm so glad that there are brands that, like yours that have stuck at it. And there are only a few that have been in the game that long. So it's very impressive. I know from our perspective as a small business, I think, when I got involved in this barefoot movement, I was quite fortunate that it came at a time when it was really starting to gain some momentum again. And, I'd like to think that all of the brands, yourself included, and what we've been trying to do over the last 5 years has helped that momentum grow. But I think it really is worth underlining how tough that can be as a business to keep going at something when you aren't getting that, I guess, feedback from a financial perspective. This is the right decision, but you would have been seeing it, I'm sure, from a customer testimonial perspective. Like, I'm sure that is the fuel that would have kept you going through it all. Is you can't be wrong if you're getting the feedback that you're getting about your shoes and what these shoes are allowing people to do with the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I think you've put your finger on it. That is absolutely the nub of it. We knew it wasn't smoke and mirrors. There's been a number of things in footwear. I can think of one um, called the Masai Barefoot technology in MBT shoes. They kind of, whoa, they went like this, and every outdoor store, sports store would have a big stand with this footwear in there that would had a great big rocker under it. And again, I'm not going to, comment on that someone else's business more than um, we felt that this movement was not smoke and mirrors. It was something that, because it made sense at such a fundamental level, that it was worth chipping away at, and people laughing at you as they did in those early days. Admittedly, some of our early shoes weren't that pretty, but still in the UK, it's a funny old place to be in this industry, in that retail doesn't want to know about it, with one or two exceptions, but they're generally crazy advocates like we are that are running these places, like Ali at the Walking Hub, for example. But if you went to try and take your shoes, put them in a bag, and went to try and sell them to independents or chains, and they'd see you out the door, can't sell those, mate. Go on, off you go. And here's a fiver for your petrol home, because you're obviously broke, if that's what you're trying to do. So we're still sitting in that environment now in the UK, whereas in Europe, in some parts, you're reaching a tipping point at retail. America is probably similar, or our experience of that. It's probably one or two of our co-brands that are that are doing better, much better at retail than us. But what we've always been able to do is sell direct to our customers online, and we're able to do that pretty much from the start. It was pretty early days then, pretty grim technology, and people said things like, well, you're never going to sell shoes online. People want to go into a store to try on a shoe, and I get that, but you have to go through that and make it easier for people to do that. And of course, generally, people will buy anything online these days. So we have a lovely business in the UK, but it's pretty much online. So yeah, it's interesting how the thing kind of evolves, but
I think it's, like you said, I think it's fascinating. You could take that shoe, like you said, in a bag to a retailer and be told black and blue that no one would ever buy those. But if you took that bag with that shoe inside it and you went straight to the consumer and you had enough time to communicate to that consumer why you've put that shoe in that bag, then eventually they would buy it. And I think that's what we find with our products and services that we offer, and I'm sure you find it with your customers. It doesn't happen overnight. The pitch of natural footwear, it's something that can often take 10 touch points and months, if not years, to sink in for people. But like you were saying, you knew inherently and deeply and believed that this was right. And
yes, yeah.
One of our values at TFC, our values are truth, fun, and community. They spell TFC, fortunately, but
Brilliant.
The reason truth is our first value is because we believe that there is a truth here, that we are all aligned on, and we are all refining. Like, that truth still needs refinement, don't get me wrong, but there is a truth here that needs to be communicated, because there is currently far too many myths out there that find themselves in the form of some types of shoes that people are buying and spending hundreds of dollars on, and then spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars more trying to recover from the impacts of. And so I just think when you're rooted in that truth with what you're trying to achieve, you really, you can still go wrong if you don't work out a way to communicate that truth clearly. But that's why I think we're still, like you said, very early on in this journey, because I think we may be starting to see that tipping point in Europe and in some pockets around the world, but the tipping point is still less than 1% of all shoe sales globally.
Yeah.
There is a lot more that truth needs to get out, but it takes a village. It takes a team of brands everywhere to keep sort of shouting that message for it to get through. But it needs to be embedded in that truth. We can't be trying to pull the wool over the eyes of customers anymore, because they're too smart. Our listeners, for example, they're listening to a Barefoot Shoe or a natural foot health podcast for a reason, because they're sick of having the lies.
Yeah. It's so closely aligned to general wellness and overall health. Is foot health and how we move, and the piece of footwear that we put on the bottom of our legs is so key to that. But it's about the advocator, if that's the right word, the advocacy. And there's two stores. I'm not going to mention the name. I've mentioned one of them, Ali at the Walking About. I'm not going to mention. I have a very, very close friend who is a manager at the most traditional store in Britain, or one of them outdoor stores. And he would dearly love and believes in our footwear, but he's not the owner. And they sell a very traditional range of footwear with a very traditional message about ankle support and being totally structured and secure within the footwear. It needs to fit, obviously, and they'll fit very carefully. And the customers come in and they're hugely successful, and they will go through a fitting process, and they will be told that they must lock their ankles in, that if there's any give in the outsole, then they could get problems. They may well need a special orthotic in there to hold the foot as well, to support the arch. They'll need to, they'll need to have a certain experience to be safe in the mountains, and that'll be backed up with what they've learned in life, and it'll be backed up with certain organisations that are out there that are maybe picking up people off the mountains who are saying, well, we don't want to come and get you guys if you're not in a hugely supportive piece of footwear. So the other store, she gets the same customer through the door, exactly the same customer, and she tells me that 19 out of 20 times that customer has come in for one product that they think, and they will walk out with 20 minutes. She's a great saleswoman, and her colleague's brilliant as well. But 20 minutes, maybe an hour, they will walk out with a Barefoot shoe, and they will never look back in life from that. So it's education, isn't it? And people do need to understand. They need to see. There's all that adage in marketing: someone has to see something 3 times before they'll even begin to take it seriously. So what we're all doing in our industry, and I love the even bigger brands that we have who are getting the message out that much more. And you guys are doing an amazing job. We're quite small, we can only do so much, but trying to get that message out that there is another way, and that if you want to align it to within your goals for wellness, which quite frankly we all do, don't we? It's just some of us are more weight to it maybe, or have been awakened to it than others. But
I think to that point, Andrew, I think the uphill battle we face, and you make a really good point that whole concept around 3 touch points is what it takes to, to make the sale or to get someone over the line. I think the issue that we face with natural footwear and with natural foot health more broadly is that for every time that we tell someone you need to go barefoot and you need to be strengthening your feet and you need to be wearing shoes that allow your foot to function naturally, there are so many other messages that are hitting them from every other angle that are screaming more support, more cushioning, more comfort, more technology. And so it's sort of it's been a lot of one step forward, one step back. And I think we're in a fortunate space now with social media, love it or hate it, the algorithm and the way it works, that if we can sort of hook someone and get them starting to think about natural health and barefoot shoes, then the algorithm will continue to feed them content that will start to amplify that message. And so, I think that's why we've been able to see a real momentum shift with this message in the last few years, particularly is because that echo chamber, whether you like it or hate it, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, has actually been able to sort of capture an audience and grow that audience. But yeah, it's one of these things with footwear as well. Spoken about it with a couple of people in the past, is we're in a unique position as well, because obviously there's been this big natural shift towards natural health, and people know now that breath work is really important and mindfulness is really important, and we need to eat organic food and eat more naturally. The problem with breath, meditation, and food is there's not a massive industry. Well, food maybe, arguably there is, but there's not a massive industry telling you the complete opposite thing. And the doctors, sadly, to this point, 99% of the doctors are still telling you to wear the thing that's causing the dysfunction. The experts are still telling you to wear the thing that's actually making
half the
situation
physios
worse. Yeah. Podiatrists here in Australia. I mean, doctors are mostly aligned that you need to eat, whole foods and eat as naturally as you possibly can, reduce processed foods. We've all sort of gotten to that point now. We know we shouldn't be putting microplastics in our body and eating processed foods. We know that we should be eating filtered water drinking filtered water where we can. We know that we should be breathing through our nose and that breath is really important for us. We know that we should be sleeping well and getting 8 hours of sleep. There's no, the smoking companies aren't getting away with telling us that we should be smoking cigarettes anymore, because the general consensus now is that's bad. The problem is in the health world, the general consensus is still that cushioning and support and narrow shoes are okay for your feet. That's going to shift. That's going to shift. There's no way that doesn't shift in the next 5 years, surely 5-10 years, maybe that general. And when that does, the game completely changes. Yeah. But at the moment, we're still just sort of tapping on the door and catching people in that web. But
it's bizarre.
It's got to happen.
Yeah. This running, you must run with 50 mil under your feet. So the angle we've come at is that, well, okay, you want your PB, your personal best time in that race, fine, wear something with a carbon plate that's going to spring you and you've got all the cushioning. But around that, you must train and keep your feet strong by having natural footwear in your collection and use it regularly. And that resonates a bit, but they'll still go back to these, to their thick cushioned footwear. And, it's because it's long term. We just keep chipping away. And I agree with you.
It's a journey.
It is coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's and I don't want to throw her under the bus, but my partner recently bought a couple of pairs of running shoes. She bought, and again, I won't say the brand, but she bought a natural pair of running shoes, but they had quite a big stack height. And I said at the time, just be aware of the trade-offs. And she was like, well, for the load I'm doing, I want that extra cushion. I said, yeah, awesome. But the shoes came and they had the cushioning, but they were also far more rigid than she anticipated. So they didn't have a lot of flex. And only a couple of days ago, she said, I really regret buying these shoes. Like I'm feeling pain in my feet because of the decision, that I've made. And that is someone who had worn unnatural footwear for so long and, has only really transitioned to natural footwear in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now with that added awareness, is able to tap into that signal and go, this isn't right. And I think even if it takes 3 or 4 years for someone to go on that journey, to still be buying into the marketing and the messaging around the cushioning or around what they feel their body needs, I think the body, once it's been given that blindfold's been ripped off and that awareness has been brought back, the body knows inherently what it wants. And so many people say to us that once they've gone to that wider toe box, then they can't look back. They do have to throw out or donate all of the shoes that that they've had in their collection because it's too uncomfortable. They don't want to feel uncomfortable anymore. Comfort is no longer the cushioning. Comfort is the freedom.
For me, I was I was in the military. I was sport obsessed, playing some sport, so much, and my knees were pretty wrecked at 40, pretty wrecked. My ankles, I would turn them so regularly, and I had to wear some great ankle brace for a while. And someone gave me this is 20 years ago, gave me a pair of 5 fingers. I was in kind of the industry, footwear and sport and outdoor, gave me a pair of 5 fingers. And of course, you put them on and you go run 10K in them, don't you, the next day?
Everyone has.
I've never had so much pain up my calves and that kind of thing. I thought 2 things. I thought, oh boy, that hurts. And then I thought, wow, that's interesting. But it probably took me a year of going backwards and forwards and thinking, is this kind of really, what is this? So it was quite a challenge, really. And I've never worn a pair of shoes since, a traditional pair of shoes since then. But 3, 4, 5 years into that journey, my knees, which were shot, felt like they were 17 again, 17 years old. And here I am at 61. And I've never felt fitter or stronger. No issues with ankles, no issues with knees, lower back. And, you just want to tell people that there is another way that you could be. And it's not so much about, mobility at 20, 30. We can blag anything, can't we, when we're young, when we're your age, Mac. But, hey, when you get to my age, you're thinking about, well, I want to be wandering down those Himalayan trails at 80. Okay, so that's 20 years' time. How am I going to do that? Well, I know for certain I'm not going to do that if my knees are wrecked, or my ankles are wrecked, or my back hurts. I have a chance when I'm 80 if I'm true to this. And so it's like, guys, girls, you need to understand this. This is so important. You can probably eat a bit of bad food every now and then, and you can switch around and drink a bit, not drink a bit, but actually you need to do this.
It's so true. How do you expect to get from A to B at any age freely without your feet? And we take it all so for granted.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the thing.
And, we probably see customers who are even further down the spiral than they would be when they're coming to you, is that we're getting the people who are just in agony and, in absolute despair. We had someone message our community yesterday with this message of like 3 to 4 months, for the last 3 to 4 months, they've had just crippling plantar fasciitis pain every day.
Yeah.
And until you've had that, it's very hard to put yourself in that person's shoes and understand the sort of impact that that's having on your day-to-day life. Let alone hiking the Himalayas, just trying to get out of bed in the morning and get down the stairs.
Go to the loo.
And then, we look at the complete opposite end of that spectrum from hiking the Himalayas to, and we were chatting about this before the call, but too many people falling over. And it's not just your dodgy knees or your dodgy hips, but it all starts at the feet. And we've only got to look at the shoes that we put people who age in to try and give them more stability, to wonder where we're going wrong. But I think that's sort of where we really see ourselves fitting in, is that, the shoes are so important. Absolutely. The feet are so important, but
educating
feet aren't very, exactly. We need to fill in the gaps for people and meet them where they're at. Whether it's a sports star who's just trying to prevent injuries or get back on the field, or it's your elderly grandmother who is trying to stay on their feet. A different message is going to resonate with a different person, but we need to get that education out there, because it's the flow-on effects, like you said, of the mental impacts of knowing that you can't do the things that you want to be able to do. It's just, it's criminal. And we're not thinking about it when we're slipping on our new cushion pair of sneakers and, wanting to jam our feet into these fashionable shoes. It's just, it doesn't, like you said at the beginning, it does matter what they look like, but we need to get beyond what it looks like. And that's why it's so important that, brands like you guys and others are now trying to make shoes that tick both boxes, because we need to find a way to make the fashion functional, or at least
kind of bring that together.
Fashionable.
There's
sure.
a place in the middle. There's
plenty to go, mate. There's plenty to go. I think that's what we keep coming back to, is sadly I think both of us will have jobs for quite some time, because there are a lot of people that we can still help. And like I said earlier, I think it's just kudos for plugging at it, because we're finally, I think, on the upper trajectory for what is a very exciting movement. So I'm excited to catch up in person again in September. We'll be heading over for the Barefoot Shoe Expo then.
Looking forward to seeing you then. I know we're looking forward to that. That will be a fun show.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, mate, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it is early there, so very grateful for you having a chat.
It's been absolutely lovely to catch up again, Mac. Thank you. And
if anyone wants a pair of feet, what can they do? How can they get a pair of feet on their feet?
Best thing to do is to have a look at freetbarefoot.com. And we are so looking forward to just kind of, bringing your message in, more deeply into what we do, because we know that we don't have the bandwidth or the time or the knowledge and expertise to put that educating message out there. It must be done. It has to be done. It's the most important thing. And then we can be one of the folk out there that can provide some natural footwear as well. But the education is absolutely key to the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're really stoked to be able to bring that to your customers. So every Freak customer, they'll be offered some of our education straight after their purchase, so that they can start training their feet, and getting that truth that we so deeply believe that they need to help them start restoring their natural foot function, getting the most out of their shoes, and ideally being able to explore life with more freedom and confidence, because that's what it's all about.
And have more fun. Thank you, Matt.
That's it, mate. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks for listening to the Restore to Explore podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to hear more or watch more, then the best thing you can do is give us a like, a follow, or a subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, and of course, leave a review. That support means that we can continue creating more educational content like this for our community. If you would like to learn more about our tools, our training, natural footwear, just explore the shop or some of our free resources, then the best place that you can go to is thefootcollective.com. And like we mentioned throughout this episode, we do have a special discount for our listeners in the show notes. Thanks for listening.